Hello lovely people! If you're new here, hello, I'm Jessica. I make amusing and educational videos about disability, sexuality, vintage fashion and history. If you think you'd enjoy spending time with a girl from another century, learning about interesting things that have happened in the past, then do click subscribe. I love making profiles on famous disabled figures from history, and today we're going to be talking about King Charles II of Spain and how the dynasty that dominated Europe for 500 years was undone by incest. Charles was nicknamed
El Hechizado,
the Hexed, voiceover provided by my dear Spanish friend Clara, because people at the time believed that his physical and mental disabilities were the result of sorcery. A new study into the genetics of his immediate ancestors has found that he was so inbred that he actually suffered from at least 2 inherited disorders. I mean, I'm not inbred, but I feel your pain. But that's not how the Hapsburgs started out. I apologise in advance, by the way, for the fact I say Hapsburgs rather than Habsburgs. It's just the way I've always been taught history, and it's stuck in my head. The English like to anglicise words in the schoolroom because colonialism. The Habsburg Dynasty was one of the most important and influential royal families in Europe. It was founded in the 11th century Austria and produced kings and emperors of the Kingdom of Bohemia, Croatia, Illyria, Portugal, Austria, Hungary, Belgium, the Netherlands and the German Empire, as well as several Dutch and Italian principalities. And if that sounds like most of Europe to you, that's because it is! Don't worry about France being missing, they married Frenchmen too, mainly ones they were related to. From the 16th century, following the reign of Charles V, the dynasty was split between the Austrian and Spanish branches. Although they ruled distinct territories, they nevertheless maintained unfortunately close relations and frequently intermarried. The family motto makes this clear: let others wage war, but you, happy Austria, shall marry. The Habsburgs believed passionately in dynastic marriage. That's the practice of which members of ruling dynasties marry into other reigning families. Monarchs were often pursuing national or international aggrandizement, hoping that bonds of kinship would restrain aggression and promote political unity, also enhance territorial acquisition and, of course, that good old inheritance pot. Now, dynastic marriages may seem like a great idea, but they're really not. Growing your wealth and power seems like a great thing, but unfortunately the Habsburgs were just too darn good at it. As I said, they were soon ruling most of Europe, and that really only left each other to marry. In 1700, there was a sudden demise of the royal Spanish branch of the family, and scientists now believe they have a definitive explanation as to why. The very last Spanish Habsburg king, Charles II, had a family tree that was complex. Really complex. His mother was his father's niece, his grandmother was also his aunt, his paternal grandparents were also his maternal great-grandparents, and all of his great-grandparents were descended from the same 2 people. I mean, that was never going to be a good idea. Scientists have found that with no let-up on the amount of intermarriage, the degree of genetic inbreeding gradually built up. The founder of the Spanish dynasty, Philip I, is calculated to have an inbreeding coefficient of 0.025, which meant that just 2.5% of his genes were likely to be identical by common descent. 200 years and 7 generations later, the coefficient had leapt tenfold to 0.25 in the genome of Carl II, meaning up to 1 in 4 of his genes might have been identical. That's a quarter. That's the same as the risks to an offspring of a brother and sister, or a parent and child, getting together. The medical dangers here are obvious. Defective recessive genes can come together in one person and manifest into the unfortunate Charles II. Charles's father, Philip IV, didn't have it great either. He was only 10 years old when his parents arranged his first marriage to the daughter of the French king. See? Told you they married French people. Out of their 8 children, only 2 were boys and both died. One of them, Marie Theresa, you may recognise from the TV show Versailles, as she married Louis XIV of France and, spoiler, actually managed to have children. At the age of 41 and now a widower, Philip remarried his own 12-year-old niece, Maria Anna, lover of massive dresses, probably not a lover of where her life was going. Only 2 of their 5 children survived to adulthood, Margarita Theresa and Charles. Although no one really believed Charles would actually make it out of childhood, contemporary writings called the baby big-headed and weak. He was described as short, lame, epileptic, senile, and completely bald before 35, although so are other people. He was always on the verge of death, but completely baffled Christendom by continuing to live. Go Charles! By this point, the Habsburg lip, or Habsburg jaw was well known. It's an inherited Mandibular Prognathism. Are you impressed I said that? Which means the lower jaw grows faster than the upper, resulting in an extended chin. It was a family trait, but due to Charles being the most Hapsburg to ever Hapsburg, his case was very extreme. His lips were unable to meet, and his tongue was too large, which meant he had difficulty swallowing, eating, or not drooling. Okay, try it right now. Keep your mouth open and your tongue flat. And then try to swallow. No. You have to form a seal with either your lips or your tongue in order to be able to swallow. Charles spoke and ate only with extreme difficulty and was not able to form words until the age of 4, nor walk until the age of 8. He suffered from convulsions, intestinal upsets, edemas, and hallucinations. However, foreign observers did note that his mental capacities remained intact, which is probably worse for him, because he knew who was to blame. Absolutely all of his family. Intentional inbreeding. We know better now than to do it to dogs. Professor
Gonzalo Álvarez, de la Universidad Santiago de Compostela, en España.
Thanks, Clara. Found that the Habsburgs suffered a far higher child mortality than the general population, even though the family was immensely wealthy and did not experience the poverty-related health problems faced by many people at the time. They even had doctors and intentional inbreeding. Again, guys, no, don't do that, no. Fun fact, Marie Antoinette also inherited the Habsburg jaw, but hers was minor enough to just make it look like she was pouting all the time, in an attractive way. Although, to be fair, it probably didn't endear her to people who weren't attracted to her. However, this impact of inbreeding isn't really fully understood, as Charles's full-blood sister, Margaret Theresa, had absolutely none of his health problems and was both attractive and healthy with a lively character. She also died at the age of 21, but she'd already been pregnant 6 times, so I feel like this may have been a circumstantial thing more than it is genetic. Oh, also they married her to her uncle/cousin, because apparently no one had learnt any lessons ever. She called him uncle throughout their marriage, and it was a bit weird. Professor Álvarez suggests that Charles II inherited genes that caused 2 genetic disorders. One was a hormone imbalance called pituitary hormone deficiency, which would have affected his growth and development, and the other was a kidney problem that led to a metabolic disorder which caused impotence and infertility. His muscular weakness at a young age, rickets, hematuria, which is blood in the urine, and a big head relative to his body size could be attributed to his genetic disorder, he said. Although others have pointed out that rather than being deficient in growth hormone, he may have had too much, resulting in acromegaly. That's a condition where people continue to grow once their growth plates have fused. But these conditions aren't necessarily genetic, and some scientists believe that there's no conclusive evidence they were caused by detrimental recessive alleles inherited from common ancestors. Despite all of this, Charles became king at the age of 3, when his father, Philip IV, died in 1665. As he was legal minor, his mother ruled as Queen Regent, creating a bitter internal struggle for control of the government, with Philip's illegitimate half-brother, John of Austria the Younger. John eventually won, but then died in the late 1670s, but not before arranging 18-year-old Charles's possible marriage to Marie-Louise of Orléans, oldest daughter of Philippe, Duke of Orléans, who you may also recognise from the TV show Versailles. It's a really good show. You should watch it. However, the French ambassador wrote that the Catholic king is so ugly as to cause fear, and he looks ill, and the marriage was so strongly resisted by the prospective bride that it went ahead regardless. This is history. What were you expecting to happen? A woman to get her way? No, friend. Charles was devoted to his bride, even when his mother returned as regent and did her utmost to isolate Marie-Louise for being the choice of her rival and French. Still iffy on the French. The couple struggled to get anywhere with the making of the babies, which was really not the poor girl's fault, but she was put through severe intestinal problems due to weird fertility treatments and was very unpopular due to her lack of an heir. The pressure to produce an heir is illustrated by the story that when an astrologer suggested Charles's sterility was due to his failure to say bye to his father, Mariana had Philip IV's body disinterred to allow him to do so. Yes, they dug up his father's body. You thought modern fertility treatments were odd. Charles was distraught when Marie-Louise died in February 1689, but his declining health meant in August he married Mariana of Nuremberg, sister to his brother-in-law's new wife. It was complex. As one of 12 children, she was selected for her family background of fertility, but also to strengthen the pro-Austrian faction of the Spanish court. His mother was Austrian, remember? I mean a relative, but she was Austrian. The marriage was no more successful in producing an heir, however. After his death, Charles's autopsy revealed he had only one atrophied testicle, and he was almost certainly impotent. Can't say we're hugely surprised at this stage. Charles is now best remembered both for his physical disabilities and the cross-Europe war for his throne that followed his death. So, what have we learnt today? Don't marry your blood relatives for 7 generations. Also, talking to dead people does not help fertility. So, some good take-home lessons. If you've enjoyed this video, please do click the like button and subscribe to the channel. I am very happy to have you. Please let me know in the comments below which disabled person from history you'd like me to profile next. See you in my next video. Mwah.